In the early 1980s, Mia Farrow and Woody Allen were one of Hollywood's brightest couples. The famous actress and legendary director began a relationship that would last 12 years. Farrow appeared in 13 of Allen's films and reached the pinnacle of her career through these collaborations. However, no one could have predicted how this brilliant story would end in scandal. Mia Farrow and Woody Allen began their romantic relationship in 1980. Throughout their relationship, they lived in separate apartments in Manhattan and never married. This unconventional arrangement seemed to work perfectly for both of them at the time. Farrow had adopted several children while previously married to the renowned composer Andre Previn. Soon-Yi Previn was one of them. Soon-Yi was found abandoned in Seoul, South Korea, and authorities assigned her a birth date of October 8, 1970, in 1976. The young girl who could not speak was placed in an institution called Maria's House and later at St. Paul's Orphanage. Her early years were marked by hardship and uncertainty. Farrow's marriage to Andre Previn ended in 1979. Soon-Yi was adopted by Farrow and Previn in 1977, becoming part of a large and diverse family. As Allen and Farrow's relationship deepened, a family structure began to form around them. Allen accepted two more of Farrow's adopted children, Dylan and Moses, as his stepchildren. The adoption process for Dylan and Moses was completed on December 17, 1991. In 1987, the couple's biological son, Satchel Ronan O'Sullivan Farrow, now known as Ronan Farrow, was born. The family appeared to be thriving, with Allen and Farrow collaborating professionally while raising their children together, albeit in separate homes. In a 2018 interview, Soon-Yi said she met Woody Allen when she was 10 years old and didn't like him immediately. She described their early interactions as minimal and unremarkable. Allen showed very little interest in Soon-Yi throughout his relationship with Farrow. A judicial investigation concluded that Previn and Allen rarely spoke before 1990. They existed in the same family orbit, but maintained considerable distance from one another. Soon-Yi's perspective on Allen changed after she injured her ankle playing soccer during her senior year of high school. Allen offered her transportation to school, and in 1990, Soon-Yi began attending New York Knicks basketball games with Allen. These outings marked the beginning of a connection that would eventually transform into something far more complex and controversial. In January 1992, an event occurred that no one expected. Farrow discovered nude photographs of Soon-Yi at Allen's home. The discovery was completely accidental, yet it would shatter the family and create one of Hollywood's biggest scandals. Allen, who was 56 years old at the time, said he had taken the photographs the day before and that it was approximately 2 weeks after they first had sexual relations. Soon-Yi was in her first year of university at the time and was 21 years old. Farrow said about the photographs, they wouldn't put them in Playboy. These were hustler photographs, really, really pornographic photographs. The explicit nature of the images added another layer of shock to an already devastating discovery. Farrow's discovery of these photographs was not only the end of a relationship, but also the beginning of one of the biggest scandals in media history. The judicial investigation concluded that Allen and Previn's sexual relationship began in December 1991. Allen stated in court that their relationship began a few days after Christmas. Soon-Yi, with a different account, indicated that the relationship began shortly after she enrolled at Drew University. The exact timeline became a matter of legal scrutiny and public fascination. Allen initially thought he could keep his relationship secret. Allen said that when his relationship began, he was in a version of a relationship with Farrow, but they were only continuing for show. Alan described their relationship as an affair, but this gradually transformed into a more significant relationship. What started as something he perhaps saw as casual became increasingly serious and meaningful to both parties involved. On August 17th, 1992, Alan publicly announced that he was in love with Soon-Yi Previn. This public declaration came amid intense media scrutiny and legal battles with Farrow. Previn was surprised by his announcement. "I learned that he loved me only when he held a press conference and announced it publicly. Even then, I wasn't sure." We had never said these words to each other. The revelation that Alan had declared his love through a press conference rather than privately speaks to the unusual circumstances surrounding their relationship. The first media coverage of their relationship in 1992 caused a major scandal. Alan's relationship with the adopted daughter of his longtime partner caused controversy not only in the United States but worldwide. The story dominated headlines and talk shows, with opinions sharply divided. Many people argued that Alan's relationship with Soon-Yi was ethically inappropriate. Critics pointed to the power dynamics, the familial connections, and the way their relationship had developed while Alan was still with Farrow. The public outcry was intense and sustained. In his defense, Alan said, "The fact that Soon-Yi was Mia's daughter didn't create a big moral dilemma. It was a fact, but it wasn't very important. It's not like she was my daughter." Alan also emphasized that he was not Soon-Yi's stepfather, and that he didn't even live in the same house with Mia. He argued that the familial relationship was not as close as critics suggested. In her 2018 interview, Soon-Yi also stated that Alan was not a father figure to her. "I already had a father. That was Andre Previn, and Mia never married Woody. They didn't even live together. He was my mother's boyfriend." She rejected the characterization that Alan had been in a parental role in her life. Despite all the criticism and social pressure, Alan and Soon-Yi continued to stay together. Their relationship weathered the storm of public opinion and remained intact. They married in Venice on December 22, 1997. At that time, Soon-Yi was 27 and Alan was 62 years old. The couple adopted 2 daughters together, creating their own family unit. According to friends who have known Soon-Yi for a long time, she dedicated herself to being a wife and homemaker. The family lives in Manhattan's Upper East Side. In her 2018 interview, Soon-Yi said about her relationship with Alan, "I was very impressed after the first kiss, and I loved him." She also added these words, "We haven't spent a single night apart since we got married." This statement suggests a deep commitment and bond between them, regardless of how their relationship began. The controversial nature of this relationship stems not only from the age difference or Alan's history with Farrow, but also from the fact that Soon-Yi was Farrow's adopted daughter. The complexity of the family dynamics made the situation particularly difficult for many people to accept. Since Alan technically never adopted Soon-Yi, there was no legal issue, but the moral dimension was constantly questioned by society. Alan's treatment of relationships between young women and older men in his earlier films made the situation even more complex. In his 1979 film, Manhattan, he depicted a relationship between a 47-year-old man and a 17-year-old girl. Many people thought that Alan's real life was reflected in his films, seeing parallels between his artistic output and his personal choices. This perception added another layer to the public's understanding and judgment of his relationship with Soon-Yi. Decades later, Alan and Soon-Yi are still together. They live a normal family life with their 2 adopted daughters. However, This relationship has remained in memory as one of the most controversial stories in Hollywood history. As of 2021, Soon-Yi is not in contact with her mother, Mia Farrow. The estrangement between mother and daughter has been complete and long-lasting. Allen continued his career, but with the Tanner Me Too movement, many actors and colleagues distanced themselves from him. The cultural shift brought renewed scrutiny to his past and his relationship with Soon-Yi. This story raises difficult questions about love, family, morality, and social norms. On one side is a couple who claim it is true love, and on the other side is a society that finds the situation inappropriate and criticizes it. Both sides have their own perspectives and justifications. The debate continues to this day, with no clear resolution or consensus. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. I'm curious about your thoughts too. What do you think about this relationship?